school DNA project. The results came back. Your father isn't your biological father. The triplets confronted their grandmother. She cried. Your mother never told anyone. They found his name in her diary. David. They searched online. An architect, downtown. They walked into his office. Are you David? He looked up. 3 children with his eyes. His smile. We think you're our dad. His coffee cup fell. He never knew. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, subscribe to the channel and let's get started. Wake up, babies. Time for school. Helen Carter stood in the doorway of the small bedroom. 3 beds lined the walls. Maya sat up first. She rubbed her eyes and reached for her glasses on the nightstand. Zoe rolled over and pulled the blanket over her head. Marcus groaned and stayed still. I said wake up, Helen repeated. Her voice was firm but kind. Breakfast is ready. Maya climbed out of bed. She wore purple pajamas with stars on them. She walked to Zoe's bed and shook her sister's shoulder. Zoe, get up. We have school. Zoe opened her eyes. They were red and puffy. She had cried herself to sleep again last night. She missed her mom. She missed her dad. 2 years ago, her mother Sarah died in a car accident. 1 year ago, her father Richard died from cancer. The pain was still fresh. Some nights were harder than others. Marcus finally sat up. His hair stuck up in different directions. He yawned and stretched his arms. What day is it? He asked. Tuesday, Maya answered. She was already making her bed. The sheets had to be straight. The pillow had to be centered. Everything had to be perfect. Helen smiled from the doorway. Come eat before the food gets cold. The 3 children got dressed. Maya wore a yellow shirt and jeans. Zoe wore a blue sweater and leggings. Marcus wore a green basketball jersey and shorts. They walked down the narrow hallway to the kitchen. The house was small, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen, and a living room. It was all they had. Helen worked at a grocery store on the south side of Chicago. Money was tight, but they had a roof over their heads. They had food on the table. That was enough. Helen placed 3 plates on the kitchen table. Scrambled eggs and toast. She poured 3 glasses of orange juice. Eat, she said. You need energy for school. The triplets sat down. Maya ate slowly and carefully. Zoe pushed her eggs around with her fork. Marcus ate quickly and drank his juice in 3 big gulps. Mrs. Patterson said we have science class today, Maya said. I like science. Me too, Zoe said quietly. I like recess better, Marcus said. He grinned. Helen packed their lunches. 3 brown paper bags, peanut butter sandwiches, apples, and cookies. She handed 1 bag to each child. Be good today, she said. Listen to your teachers. Stay together. We will, Grandma, Maya promised. They put on their backpacks and walked out the front door. Helen stood on the porch and watched them walk down the street. She did this every morning. She wanted to make sure they were safe. Lincoln Elementary School was 6 blocks away. The triplets walked together. Maya held Zoe's hand. Marcus walked ahead and kicked a rock down the sidewalk. Do you think we will have a quiz today? Zoe asked. Maybe, Maya said. I studied last night just in case. You always study, Marcus said. He laughed. They reached the school at 8:15 in the morning. The bell rang at 8:30. Students filled the playground. Friends shouted and played. Teachers stood by the doors. The triplets went to their classroom. Mrs. Patterson was already there. She was a tall woman with curly red hair and glasses. She wore a white lab coat over her dress. Good morning, class, Mrs. Patterson said. Take your seats. I have something exciting to tell you. The students sat down. Maya sat in the front row. Zoe sat next to her. Marcus sat in the back. Mrs. Patterson walked to the front of the room. She held up a box. "Today we are starting a new project," she said. "We are going to learn about genetics. Does anyone know what genetics means?" A few students raised their hands. "Genetics is the study of how traits pass from parents to children," Mrs. Patterson explained. "Like eye color, like hair texture, like height. You get these traits from your mother and father through something called DNA." She opened the box. Inside were small white envelopes and cotton swabs. "Each of you will take a cotton swab and rub it on the inside of your cheek," Mrs. Patterson said. "This collects your DNA. We will send these samples to a lab. In 3 weeks, we will get the results. You will learn about your family traits." The students whispered excitedly. Maya smiled. She loved learning new things. Zoe looked nervous. Marcus leaned back in his chair and shrugged. Mrs. Patterson walked around the room. She handed each student an envelope and a swab. "Open your mouth and rub the swab on the inside of your cheek," she said. "Then put the swab in the envelope and seal it. Write your name on the front." Maya went first. She opened her mouth and rubbed the swab carefully. She sealed it in the envelope and wrote her name in neat letters. Zoe did the same. Marcus rushed through it. He sealed his envelope and tossed it on his desk. "Thank you, everyone," Mrs. Patterson said. She collected all the envelopes. "I will mail these to the lab today. We will get the results in 3 weeks." The students forgot about the project quickly. 3 weeks was a long time. They had spelling tests and math homework and recess to think about. Life continued as normal. The triplets went to school every day. They did their homework every night. They played at the park on weekends. Helen worked at the grocery store and cooked dinner every evening. They visited their parents' graves once a month. They cried sometimes. They laughed sometimes. They were learning how to live without their mom and dad. Then one Thursday during lunch period, everything changed. Maya, Zoe, and Marcus sat in the cafeteria. They ate the sandwiches Helen packed. They talked about their day. Then Mrs. Patterson walked into the cafeteria. She looked around the room. When she saw the triplets, she walked toward them. Her face looked strange. Her mouth was tight. Her eyes were worried. "Maya, Zoe, Marcus," she said. "Can you come with me, please?" The triplets looked at each other. Maya's stomach twisted. Zoe's hands started shaking. Marcus frowned. They followed Mrs. Patterson out of the cafeteria. They walked down the hallway to her classroom. She closed the door behind. Zoe's hands started shaking. Marcus frowned. They followed Mrs. Patterson out of the cafeteria. They walked down the hallway to her classroom. She closed the door behind them. "Sit down," she said softly. They sat at their desks. Mrs. Patterson pulled a chair in front of them. She held 3 pieces of white paper. "I received the DNA results from the lab today," she said. Her voice shook. "I need to show you something. I do not know how to say this, but you need to know." She handed each of them a piece of paper. Maya looked at hers first. Her eyes scanned the words. DNA match. Siblings confirmed. Father, Richard Thompson. No match. Maya read the words again. No match, no match, no match. "What does this mean?" Maya whispered. Mrs. Patterson took a deep breath. "It means Richard was not your biological father. The DNA does not match." The room went silent. Zoe stared at the paper. Tears filled her eyes. Marcus crumpled his paper in his fist. His face turned red. "That is impossible," Marcus said. His voice was loud and angry. "Richard was our dad. This is wrong." "I checked with the lab 3 times, Mrs. Patterson said. "They used Richard's medical records from the hospital. The results are correct." Maya started crying. The tears came fast and hard. "I believe you. He ran out of the classroom. Maya and Zoe ran after him. Mrs. Patterson called their names, but they did not stop. They ran through the hallway. They ran out the front doors. They ran to the bus stop 2 blocks away. They did not ask permission to leave school. They did not sign out. They just ran. The bus came 5 minutes later. They climbed on. They sat in the back. Nobody spoke. Maya held the DNA paper in her shaking hands. Zoe cried quietly. Marcus stared out the window. His jaw was clenched. His fists were tight. 20 minutes later, the bus stopped near their house. They walked down the street slowly. Everything felt different. The trees looked wrong. The sky looked wrong. Their whole life felt wrong. They opened the front door. Helen was in the kitchen. She was cooking soup on the stove. She wore her apron. She hummed a church song. "Why are you home so early?" she asked. She turned around. When she saw their faces, she stopped humming. "What happened?" Maya walked forward. She handed Helen the DNA paper. Her hands shook. Helen looked at the paper. Her eyes moved across the words. Her face went pale. Her mouth opened. The pot slipped from her hands. It crashed to the floor. Soup spilled everywhere. The brown liquid spread across the white tiles. Helen sat down hard in a kitchen chair. She started crying. Not quiet tears, loud, broken sobs. Her whole body shook. The triplets had never seen her cry like this. They were scared. Helen cried for 20 minutes. The children stood frozen. They did not know what to do. Finally, Helen wiped her face with her apron. She looked at the 3 children standing in front of her. "Sit down," she said. Her voice was hoarse. "I need to tell you the truth." They sat at the kitchen table. Helen took a deep breath. "Your mother had a boyfriend before she met Richard," Helen said. "His name was David Miller. She loved him. They dated for 2 years. Then she got pregnant with you 3. "Why did she leave him?" Maya asked. "Because David is black," Helen said. "Your mother's parents did not approve. They pressured her to leave him. She was scared. She was young, so she left. She never told David she was pregnant." "What?" Marcus shouted. "She lied to him?" "Yes," Helen said. Tears ran down her face again. "She met Richard 3 months later. Richard was kind. He loved her. When she told him she was pregnant, he said he would raise you as his own. They got married. Richard believed you were his children. Your mother never told him the truth. She kept the secret for 8 years." Zoe was crying so hard she could barely breathe. "Why did she lie?" "Because she was scared," Helen said. "She made a mistake, a big mistake. She told me the truth one night before she died. She made me promise not to tell anyone. But now you know." The kitchen was silent, except for the sound of crying. The soup was still on the floor. Nobody moved to clean it up. That night, the triplets lay in their beds, unable to sleep. Maya stared at the ceiling. Zoe hugged her pillow and cried. Marcus punched his mattress over and over until his hand hurt. They all wondered the same thing. Who was David Miller, and why did their mother lie to everyone for 8 years? The next morning, Maya woke up first. Her eyes burned from crying. She had only slept for 2 hours. She looked across the room. Zoe was already awake. She sat on her bed with her knees pulled to her chest. Marcus was still lying down, but his eyes were open. He stared at the ceiling. Nobody said anything. Helen knocked on the door. She opened it slowly. "You are not going to school today," she said. Her voice was tired. "I called Lincoln Elementary. I told them you are sick." "We are not sick," Marcus said. He sat up. His voice was flat. "I know," Helen said, "but you need to stay home. We need to talk more." She left the door open and walked back to the kitchen. The triplets got dressed slowly. They did not want to talk. They did not want to hear more. But they had no choice. They walked to the living room. Helen sat in her old brown chair. She pointed to the couch. The triplets sat down. The couch sagged in the middle. Richard used to sit there and read them stories. Helen folded her hands in her lap. She looked at each child. "Ask me your questions," she said. "I will tell you everything I know." Maya spoke first. She always spoke first. "How long did Mom date David Miller?" 2 years, Helen said. She met him when she was 24 years old. He was 26. They met at a coffee shop downtown. David was studying architecture at the University of Illinois. Your mother was working as a secretary. They fell in love quickly. "Why did Grandpa not like him?" Zoe asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. Helen's face tightened. "Your grandfather believed black people and white people should not date. He said terrible things to your mother. He said he would disown her. He said she was making a mistake." "What did you say?" Maya asked. Helen looked down at her hands. "I said nothing. I should have defended David. I should have defended your mother. But I stayed quiet. I was scared of your grandfather. That is my fault. I live with that every day." Marcus leaned forward. His elbows rested on his knees. "Did David know Mom was pregnant?" "No," Helen said. "Your mother disappeared from his life. She stopped answering his phone calls. She moved to a different apartment. David tried to find her. He came to our house twice. Your grandfather slammed the door in his face." "Why did she not tell him?" Marcus asked. His voice was getting louder. "Why did she not fight for him?" "Because she was scared," Helen said. "She was 26 years old. She was pregnant with 3 babies. She had no money. Her parents were angry. She felt alone. She made a choice. It was the wrong choice, but she made it." "How did she meet Richard?" Maya asked. "At a coffee shop," Helen said. 3 months after she left David. Richard was a teacher at a high school. He was kind. He listened to her. She told him she was pregnant. He said he would raise the babies as his own. He said he did not care. He loved her. They got married 2 months later. "Did Richard know the truth?" Zoe asked. Helen shook her head. "No. Your mother told him the babies were his. Richard believed her. He never questioned it. He loved you from the moment you were born. He changed your diapers. He woke up in the middle of the night when you cried. He was your father in every way that mattered." "Except DNA," Marcus said bitterly. Helen looked at him. "DNA is just science, Marcus. Love is what makes a family." "Then why did Mom lie?" Marcus shouted. He stood up. His fists were clenched. "If DNA does not matter, why did she lie for 8 years? Why did she let Richard think we were his? Why did she keep David away from us?" "I do not know," Helen said. Tears filled her eyes. "I asked her that same question before she died. She said she was ashamed. She said she made a mistake and did not know how to fix it." "When did she tell you the truth?" Maya asked. "The night before the car accident," Helen said. "She came to this house. She was crying. She said she could not keep the secret anymore. She said it was eating her alive. She told me everything. She made me promise not to tell Richard. She said she would tell him herself. But she died the next day." The room was silent. The clock on the wall ticked loudly. Outside, a car drove past. "Why did you not tell us after she died?" Marcus asked. His voice shook with anger. "Why did you wait 2 years?" "Because you were 6 years old," Helen said. "You had just lost your mother. Then a year later, Richard got sick. You lost him too. You were grieving. I did not want to give you more pain. I thought keeping the secret would protect you." "You were wrong," Marcus said. He turned and walked to his bedroom. He slammed the door. Maya and Zoe stayed on the couch. Zoe leaned against Maya. She was crying again. "Does David Miller know about us now?" Maya asked. "I do not know," Helen said. "I never contacted him. Your mother never contacted him. He does not know you exist." "Do you know where he is?" Zoe asked. Helen nodded slowly. "Your mother told me he became an architect. He has his own company in Chicago. She saw an article about him in the newspaper 5 years ago. She cried for 3 days." "Did she still love him?" Zoe asked. "Yes," Helen said. "She never stopped loving him. But she loved Richard too. She was torn between 2 men her whole life. That is a heavy burden to carry." Maya stood up. "I need to write in my journal." She walked to her bedroom. Zoe followed her. Marcus was lying on his bed. His face was buried in his pillow. Maya sat at the small desk by the window. She opened her purple journal. She picked up her pen and started writing. Asterisk, today. I learned my whole life is a lie. Richard was not our biological father. There is a man named David Miller who is our real father, but he does not know we exist. Mom lied to everyone. She lied to Richard. She lied to David. She lied to us. I do not know how to feel. I am sad. I am angry. I am confused. I miss Mom. But I am also mad at her. Why did she not tell the truth? Why did she not trust David? Why did she make everything so complicated? Maya stopped writing. Her hand was shaking. She closed the journal and put her head down on the desk. Zoe climbed into her bed. She pulled the blanket over her head. She cried into her pillow. She cried for her mom. She cried for Richard. She cried for David Miller, who did not know he had 3 children. Marcus rolled over. He grabbed his pillow. He punched it over and over. His fists hit hard. He pretended the pillow was the lie. He pretended he could destroy it. But the lie was still there. The truth was still there. Nothing could change it. Helen made lunch, but nobody ate. She made dinner, but nobody came to the table. The triplets stayed in their room all day. Helen sat in the living room and prayed. She asked God for guidance. She asked God to help the children heal. That night, Maya could not sleep. Again. She lay in bed and stared at the dark ceiling. The house was quiet. Zoe and Marcus were finally asleep. Helen was in her bedroom. Maya got out of bed. She tiptoed down the hallway. She opened the door to the attic. The stairs creaked as she climbed up. She turned on the small lamp in the corner. The attic was full of boxes. Old clothes, Christmas decorations, photo albums, things from the past. Maya started looking through the boxes. She did not know what she was looking for. She just needed to do something. She needed to feel close to her mother. She found a shoebox behind a box of ornaments. It was plain and brown, and she opened it. Inside were letters, photos, and a small book with a blue cover. Maya picked up the book. It was a diary. She opened the first page. In neat handwriting it said, "Asterisk, property of Sarah Carter. Do not read." Maya's heart pounded. This was her mother's diary. She ran back downstairs. She went to the bedroom. She shook Zoe awake. Then she shook Marcus. "What?" Marcus mumbled. He was angry at being woken up. "I found Mom's diary," Maya whispered. She held up the blue book. Zoe sat up immediately. Marcus rubbed his eyes and sat up too. Maya climbed onto Zoe's bed. Marcus joined them. Maya turned on the small flashlight she kept under her pillow. She opened the diary to the first page. The diary started 10 years ago. Sarah wrote about her job. She wrote about her friends. Then she wrote about meeting David. Asterisk. Today I met someone. His name is David Miller. He has the kindest eyes I have ever seen. We talked for 2 hours at the coffee shop. I did not want to leave. I think I could fall in love with him. Maya turned the page. More entries about David. Sarah wrote about their dates. She wrote about how smart he was, how funny he was, how he made her feel safe. Then the entries changed. Asterisk, Dad yelled at me today. He said David is not good enough. He said I am making a mistake. He said terrible things I do not want to write down. I do not know what to do. I love David, but I love my family too. Why do I have to choose? Zoe wiped tears from her face. Marcus said nothing. His jaw was tight. Maya kept reading. More entries. More fights with Sarah's father. More pain. Then the final entry about David. Asterisk. I am pregnant. 3 babies. I am terrified. I cannot tell David. Dad will never forgive me. I have to leave David. I have to let him go. This is the hardest thing I have ever done. David is the kindest man I ever met. I love him, but I am too weak to fight my family. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. Maya closed the diary. The 3 children sat in silence. The flashlight made shadows on the wall. She loved him, Zoe whispered. She left him anyway, Marcus said. His voice was hard. She was scared, Maya said. Grandma said she was scared. Being scared is not an excuse, Marcus said. She should have told him. He had a right to know about us. Maybe we should find him, Zoe said quietly. Titas, Maya, and Marcus looked at her. Find him? Maya repeated. Yes, Zoe said. Grandma said he lives in Chicago. He has a company. We could find him. We could tell him the truth. Grandma said we should not, Maya said. Grandma kept this secret for 2 years, Marcus said. Maybe she is wrong about this too. The 3 children looked at each other. The same thought filled their minds. They needed to find David Miller. The next morning was Friday. The triplets went back to school. Helen said they could not miss more days, but the children could not focus. Maya stared at her math worksheet without writing anything. Zoe did not eat her lunch. Marcus got in trouble for not paying attention in class. All day they thought about David Miller. Who was he? What did he look like? Would he want to meet them? After school, they walked home together. They did not talk until they reached their street. Then Marcus stopped walking. We need a plan, he said. What kind of plan? Zoe asked. A plan to find David Miller, Marcus said. Grandma will not help us, so we have to do it ourselves. Maya bit her bottom lip. She did that when she was nervous. How do we find him? The library has computers, Marcus said. We can search for him online. Grandma said he owns an architecture company in Chicago. But Grandma will not let us go looking for him, Zoe said. She said it will cause problems. Then we do not tell her, Marcus said. Maya shook her head. That means we have to lie. Mom lied to us for 8 years, Marcus said. His voice was hard. One lie will not hurt. Maya did not answer. She did not like lying, but she also wanted to find David Miller. She wanted answers. We can go tomorrow, Marcus said. Saturday, we tell Grandma we are going to the library to do homework. She will believe us. Then what? Zoe asked. We find his address, Marcus said. We go to his office. We tell him the truth. What if he does not believe us? Maya asked. We have the DNA results, Marcus said. We have Mom's diary. We have proof. The 3 children stood on the sidewalk. Cars drove past. A dog barked in the distance. Are we really doing this? Zoe whispered. Yes, Marcus said. We deserve to know our father. Maya nodded slowly. Zoe nodded too. That night at dinner, the triplets were quiet. Helen made chicken and rice. She watched them eat. She could tell something was wrong, but she did not ask. She was tired. Her knees hurt. She just wanted peace. Saturday morning came. The triplets woke up early. They got dressed. Maya wore her purple glasses and a clean shirt. Zoe wore her blue sweater. Marcus wore his green jersey. They ate breakfast quickly. Grandma, Maya said. Her voice shook a little. Can we go to the library today? We have a school project. Helen was washing dishes. She turned around. What kind of project? A reading project, Maya said. We need to find books. Helen dried her hands on a towel. All three of you are going? Yes, Marcus said. We are working together. Helen looked at them. She looked at their faces. They looked away. But she was too tired to question them. Be back by lunchtime, Helen said, and stay together. We will, Maya promised. Helen gave them bus fare. $6 total. $2 for each child. They put on their backpacks and walked out the door. They walked to the bus stop. The morning air was cold. October in Chicago was always cold. Zoe shivered. Marcus put his hands in his pockets. Maya held the straps of her backpack tightly. The bus came 10 minutes later. They climbed on. They sat in the middle. The bus driver did not look at them. The bus was full of people going downtown. People with shopping bags. People going to work. 30 minutes later, the bus stopped near the main library. The building was huge and made of stone. The triplets had been there before with Helen. They knew where the computers were. They walked inside. The library was warm. It smelled like old books and coffee. People sat at tables reading. A librarian stood behind the front desk. The children went to the computer section. There were 10 computers in a row. Zoe sat down at one. Maya and Marcus stood behind her. Zoe moved the mouse. The screen lit up. What do I search for? Zoe asked. David Miller, Chicago architect, Marcus said. Zoe typed slowly. She was not fast at typing. She pressed enter. A list of results appeared. The first one said, Asterisk David Miller Architecture. Designing community spaces in Chicago. That is him, Maya whispered. Zoe clicked on the link. A website opened. The homepage showed buildings, offices, community centers, museums. At the top of the page was a button that said, Asterisk About Us. Zoe clicked it. A new page loaded. There was a photo. A man in a gray suit. He was tall with dark brown skin. He had kind eyes and a warm smile. Under the photo it said, Asterisk David Miller, founder and principal architect. The three children stared at the photo. Nobody spoke. Marcus leaned closer to the screen. That is my nose, he said quietly. Maya touched the screen. Those are my eyes. Zoe covered her mouth with her hand. Tears filled her eyes. He looks like us. Maya scrolled down. There was more information. David Miller graduated from the University of Illinois. He opened his firm 8 years ago. His office was on Michigan Avenue. Write down the address, Marcus said. Maya pulled a piece of paper from her backpack. She wrote, Asterisk David Miller Architecture, 300 North Michigan Avenue, Suite 1500. Zoe logged out of the computer. They walked out of the library. They stood on the sidewalk. Michigan Avenue is far, Maya said. We need another bus. They walked to the nearest bus stop. A map showed the bus routes. The number 151 bus went to Michigan Avenue. They waited 15 minutes. The bus came. They climbed on. This bus was less crowded. 20 minutes later, they got off at Michigan Avenue. The street was busy. Cars honked. People walked fast. Tall buildings reached into the sky. Which building? Zoe asked. Maya looked at the paper. 300 North Michigan Avenue. They walked down the street. They passed stores and restaurants. Then they saw it. A tall glass building. The address was carved into the stone. Asterisk 300 North Michigan Avenue. The children stood outside. The building was intimidating. It was shiny and new. People in suits walked in and out. Are we really doing this? Zoe asked. We came this far, Marcus said. We are not leaving now. They walked through the glass doors. The lobby was huge. The floor was white marble. The ceiling was high. A woman sat behind a desk near the elevators. She had red hair and wore a black dress. A name tag said, *Jennifer. Derisk. The triplets walked toward her. Their footsteps echoed. Jennifer looked up. She smiled. "Good morning," she said. "Can I help you?" Maya's voice shook. "We need to see David Miller." Jennifer looked confused. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," Maya said, "but it is important." "I am sorry," Jennifer said. "Mr. Miller does not take walk-in meetings. You need to schedule an appointment. Would you like me to give you his email?" "We cannot wait," Marcus said. His voice was firm. "We need to see him now." Jennifer frowned. "What is this about?" Marcus looked at Maya. Maya looked at Zoe. Zoe nodded. "It is about his family," Maya said quietly. Jennifer's frown deepened. "Mr. Miller does not have a family. He is not married." "Yes, he does," Marcus said. "We are his family." Jennifer stared at them. She picked up the phone. She pressed a button. She waited. "Mr. Miller," she said, "I have 3 children in the lobby. They say they need to see you. They say it is about family." She paused. "Yes, sir. I will send them up." She hung up. She looked at the children. "Take the elevator to the 15th floor. Mr. Miller will meet you there." "Thank you," Maya whispered. They walked to the elevators. Maya pressed the button. The doors opened. They stepped inside. Marcus pressed the button for the 15th floor. The doors closed. The elevator moved up. Zoe grabbed Maya's hand. Her palm was sweaty. The elevator stopped. The doors opened. They stepped into a hallway. The walls were white. The floor was wood. A door at the end said, *David Miller Architecture. Before they could knock, the door opened. A man stepped out. He wore a gray suit and black shoes. He had dark brown skin and kind eyes. He looked just like his photo. He looked just like Marcus. Just like Maya. Just like Zoe. David looked at the 3 children. He looked confused. "Can I help you?" Marcus took a deep breath. His hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. "We think you are our biological father," Marcus said. David's face went pale. His eyes went wide. His briefcase slipped from his hand. It hit the floor. Papers scattered everywhere. Pens rolled across the wood. Jennifer gasped from behind the reception desk downstairs. She had followed them up. David stared at the 3 children. He looked at Maya's eyes. He looked at Marcus's nose. He looked at Zoe's face. He saw himself in them. He saw someone else too. Someone he had not seen in 10 years. "Sarah," he whispered. His legs felt weak. He grabbed the door frame to steady himself. "Please," Maya said. She was crying now. "Can we talk to you?" David nodded slowly. He could not speak. He bent down and picked up his briefcase. His hands shook. He led the children inside his office. The space was bright and clean. Large windows showed the city. Blueprints covered the walls. A leather couch sat in the corner. "Sit," David said. His voice was hoarse. The triplets sat on the couch. David sat in a chair across from them. He leaned forward. His elbows rested on his knees. He looked at each child. "Who are you?" he asked. "I am Maya," Maya said. "This is Zoe. This is Marcus. We are 8 years old. We are triplets." "And you think I am your father?" David asked. "We know you are," Marcus said. He pulled the DNA paper from his backpack. He handed it to David. "This is proof." David took the paper. His hands shook as he read it. His eyes moved across the words. DNA match. Siblings confirmed. Father, Richard Thompson. No match. "Who is Richard Thompson?" David asked. "The man who raised us," Maya said. "He thought he was our father. But he was not. You are. David looked up. Where is your mother? Zoe started crying. She died 2 years ago. Car accident. David's face broke. Tears filled his eyes. He put his hand over his mouth. Sarah is dead? Yes, Maya said. She pulled pages from her mother's diary out of her backpack. She wrote about you. She loved you. She never told you about us. David took the pages. He read Sarah's handwriting. He read about their love. He read about the pregnancy. He read about her fear. Tears ran down his face. He did not wipe them away. I did not know, David said. His voice cracked. I looked for her. She stopped answering my calls. She disappeared. I never knew she was pregnant. I never knew I had children. She was scared, Zoe said. Her father did not approve of you. David closed his eyes. I remember. He hated me. We are sorry, Maya said. We did not mean to shock you. David opened his eyes. He looked at the 3 children. I would have been there. I would have raised you. I wanted a family with your mother. They sat in silence. The office was quiet, except for the sound of crying. All 4 of them cried. For Sarah. For the lost years. For the lies. For the truth. Finally, David stood up. I need to take you home. Where do you live? With our grandmother, Marcus said. Helen. She is Mom's mother. Does she know you are here? David asked. The children looked at each other. No, Maya admitted. We lied. We said we were going to the library. David picked up his car keys. Then I need to take you home. She must be worried. They rode the elevator down. They walked to the parking garage. David's car was black and clean. The children climbed in. David started the engine. Nobody spoke during the drive. 30 minutes later, they pulled up to the small house on the south side. Helen was standing on the porch. Her face was angry and scared. David turned off the engine. He looked at the children. Are you ready? No, Zoe whispered. Me neither, David said. They got out of the car. Helen saw David. Her mouth opened. She knew exactly who he was. Everything was about to change. Helen walked down the porch steps fast. Her face was red. Her hands were shaking. Where have you been? She shouted. I called your phones 10 times. I was about to call the police. The triplets climbed out of David's car. They stood close together. Maya looked at the ground. Zoe started crying. Marcus crossed his arms. We went to the library, Maya said quietly. Do not lie to me, Helen said. Her voice was sharp. Mrs. Johnson from church saw you downtown on Michigan Avenue. She called me. I know you were not at the library. David got out of the car. He stood tall. He closed the door. Helen turned to look at him. Her eyes went wide. Then they narrowed. You are David Miller, Helen said. It was not a question. Yes, ma'am, David said. I am. You have no right to be here, Helen said. You have no right to bring these children home like you know them. I did not bring them downtown, David said. His voice was calm. They came to my office. They found me. Helen turned to the triplets. You went looking for him? Yes, Marcus said. He lifted his chin. We needed to find him. We needed to know the truth. I told you the truth, Helen said. You told us part of the truth, Marcus said. You did not tell us where he was. You did not tell us we could find him. Helen's eyes filled with tears. She looked at David. You need to leave. I understand you are upset, David said, but I have a right to know my children. They are not your children, Helen said. Her voice shook. You were not there when they were born. You were not there when Sarah died. You were not there when Richard died. You do not get to show up now. That is not fair, David said. His voice was still calm, but his hands were tight fists. I did not know they existed. Sarah never told me. If I had known, I would have been there from the beginning." Helen opened her mouth. Then she closed it. She could not argue with that. It was true. Sarah had kept the secret. Sarah had pushed David away. "Come inside," Helen finally said. "We need to talk." They walked into the house. The triplets went straight to the living room and sat on the couch. Helen pointed to the kitchen table. David sat down. Helen sat across from him. She folded her hands on the table. "Tell me what happened today," Helen said. David told her everything. He told her about the children walking into his office. He told her about the DNA results. He told her about reading Sarah's diary pages. He told her how he cried when he learned Sarah was dead. "I loved her," David said. His voice broke. "I wanted to marry her. I wanted to build a life with her. Then one day she was gone. She stopped answering my calls. I went to your house. Your husband slammed the door in my face. I looked for her for months. Then I gave up. I thought she did not love me anymore." Helen wiped her eyes. "Sarah loved you until the day she died. She told me that. But she was scared. Her father was cruel to her. He said terrible things. She felt trapped." "She could have told me," David said. "I would have fought for her. I would have fought for us." "I know," Helen said. "She made a mistake. A big mistake. But she is gone now. We cannot change the past." They sat in silence. The clock on the wall ticked. In the living room, the triplets waited. They could hear voices, but could not hear the words. Finally, Helen spoke. "What do you want?" "I want to know my children," David said. "I want to be part of their lives. I am not trying to replace Richard. I know he was a good father, but I am their biological father. I missed 8 years. I do not want to miss more." "They have been through so much," Helen said. "They lost their mother. They lost Richard. They are still healing. I do not want them to get hurt again." "I will not hurt them," David said. "I promise you that." Helen looked into his eyes. She saw truth there. She saw pain. She saw love. She took a deep breath. "We move forward carefully," Helen said. "You can visit, but you do not make big decisions without me. You do not take them places without telling me. You do not confuse them more than they already are. Do you understand?" "Yes, ma'am," David said. Helen stood up. "You can stay for dinner. The children need to see us working together. They need to know this is not a war." They walked into the living room. The triplets looked up. Their faces were scared. "David is staying for dinner," Helen said. "Go wash your hands." The children ran to the bathroom. Helen went to the kitchen and started cooking. David sat on the couch. He did not know what to do with his hands. Dinner was quiet. Helen made spaghetti. The children ate slowly. David ate slowly. Helen watched everyone. After dinner, David stood up. "I should go. Thank you for letting me stay." "You can come back next Sunday," Helen said. "Bring pizza. The children like pepperoni." David smiled. It was the first time he had smiled all day. "I will. Thank you." He looked at the triplets. "Can I hug you goodbye?" Zoe stood up first. She walked to David. He knelt down. She hugged him. She started crying. David held her gently. Maya walked over next. She hugged him quickly. Then she stepped back. Marcus stayed on the couch. He did not move. "That is okay," David said. "I will see you next Sunday." He left. The triplets watched him walk to his car. They watched him drive away. That night, Maya wrote in her journal, "Asterisk David is real. He is not just a name anymore. He cried when he learned about us. He said he would have been there. I think I believe him. But I am still scared. What if he leaves? What if he decides we are too much trouble?" The next Sunday, David came back. He brought 2 large pizzas, pepperoni and cheese. He helped Marcus with his math homework. He looked at Maya's drawings and said they were beautiful. He listened to Zoe talk about school. Every Sunday after that, David came. He brought food. He helped with homework. He played board games with them. He asked about their day. He listened when they talked about their mother. He listened when they talked about Richard. Slowly, the triplets started to trust him. Zoe talked to him the most. She asked him questions about his job. She asked him about his family. She asked him if he ever got married. David said no. He said he never found the right person after Sarah. Maya was cautious. She watched David carefully. She tested him. She asked hard questions. "Why did you give up looking for Mom?" David answered honestly. "I should not have given up. That is my biggest regret." Marcus was the coldest. He barely spoke to David. He did his homework but did not say thank you. He ate the pizza but did not smile. One Sunday, David asked if he could go to Marcus's basketball game. Marcus said no. "Richard used to go to my games," Marcus said. "He was my dad. You are just David." David nodded. "I understand. I am not trying to replace him." "Good," Marcus said, "because you cannot." 4 weeks passed. Then one Sunday, Helen said Eleanor and Frank were coming to visit. They were Richard's parents. They lived in Bloomington, Indiana. They visited once a month. "You should leave before they get here," Helen told David. "I do not want problems." "I will leave," David said, "but they will find out eventually." "I know," Helen said, "but not today." David left at 2 in the afternoon. Eleanor and Frank arrived at 3. Eleanor was a short woman with gray hair and kind eyes. Frank was tall and thin with glasses. They hugged the children. They asked about school. They brought cookies. They sat in the living room. Frank looked around. "Where is the pizza box from?" "We had pizza for lunch," Maya said. "Who bought pizza?" Eleanor asked. The children looked at each other. Nobody answered. Helen took a deep breath. "We had a visitor today." "Who?" Frank asked. Before Helen could answer, Marcus spoke. "David Miller, our biological father." Eleanor's face went white. Frank stood up. "What?" "Sit down," Helen said. "I will explain." She told them everything. The DNA test, the truth about Sarah, the fact that David was the triplets' biological father, the fact that Richard did not know. Eleanor started crying. She covered her face with her hands. Richard was their father. He raised them. He loved them. "I know," Helen said. "Nobody is saying he was not their father. But David is their biological father. He has a right to know them." Frank's face turned red. "He has no right. He was not there. Richard was there. Richard changed their diapers. Richard stayed up all night when they were sick. Richard died loving these children. That man does not get to come in now and pretend to be their father." "He is not pretending," Zoe said quietly. "He really is our father. The DNA says so." "DNA does not matter," Frank said. His voice was loud. "Love matters. Richard loved you." "David loves us too," Zoe said. Tears ran down her face. "He cried when he met us. He said he wishes he had been there." Eleanor stood up. She walked to Zoe. She hugged her. "I know this is confusing, baby, but you are still our grandchildren. You will always be our grandchildren." "We know," Maya said. "We love you. We loved Richard. But we also want to know David." Frank shook his head. He would not look at the children. "This is wrong. This is all wrong." Helen made dinner. The meal was tense. Frank barely ate. Eleanor cried quietly. The children did not talk. After dinner, Frank and Eleanor said they had to leave early. They usually stayed until 7 at night. Today they left at 5:30. Frank stopped at the door. He looked at Helen. This is not over. Then he and Eleanor walked to their car and drove away. Helen closed the door. She leaned against it. She was exhausted. Marcus looked at her. What did he mean? I do not know, Helen said, but her voice said she did know. She was scared of what would happen next. 2 weeks passed. Life continued. David came every Sunday. The triplets went to school. Helen worked at the grocery store. Everything seemed normal. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, Helen came home from work early. She held a white envelope in her hand. Her face looked wrong. The triplets were doing homework at the kitchen table. What is that? Maya asked. Helen did not answer. She opened the envelope with shaking hands. She pulled out a letter. Her eyes moved across the words. Then she sat down hard on a kitchen chair. Grandma! Zoe stood up. What is wrong? Helen put the letter on the table. Her hands covered her face. She started crying. Maya picked up the letter. She read it out loud. This is a notice of custody petition. Eleanor Thompson and Frank Thompson are filing for legal custody of Maya Miller, Zoe Miller, and Marcus Miller. A hearing is scheduled for November 15th in Cook County Family Court. The words did not make sense at first. Then they did. Maya dropped the letter. They want to take us away? Marcus said. His voice was loud. Helen nodded. She could not speak. They cannot do that, Zoe said. She started crying. We live here. We live with you. Helen finally looked up. Her eyes were red. The letter says I am too old to raise 3 children. It says David is a stranger. It says you should live with them in Bloomington because they are stable family. But we do not want to live in Bloomington, Maya said. Her voice shook. We want to stay here. I know, Helen said, but they have a lawyer. They are taking me to court. Can you get a lawyer? Marcus asked. Helen shook her head. Lawyers cost money. Thousands of dollars. I work at a grocery store. I do not have that kind of money. The children looked at each other. This was their fault. They had found David. They had opened this door. Now Eleanor and Frank were trying to take them away. That evening, Helen called David. She told him about the letter. 30 minutes later, David knocked on the door. He had driven straight from work. He still wore his suit. Helen showed him the letter. David read it. His jaw tightened. They cannot do this, David said. They are doing it, Helen said. The hearing is in 4 weeks. I will hire a lawyer, David said, for both of us. I cannot afford a lawyer, Helen said. I can, David said. I will pay for it. We will fight this together. Helen started crying again. Why are they doing this? I love these children. I have raised them for 2 years. I take care of them. They are scared, David said. They lost their son. The children are all they have left of Richard, but that does not give them the right to take the children from you. The next day, David hired a lawyer. Her name was Rebecca Torres. She was 40 years old with dark hair and smart eyes. She worked at a law firm downtown. David met with her first. Then he brought Helen to meet her. Miss Torres sat behind a big desk. Papers covered every surface. She looked at Helen and David. Tell me everything, Miss Torres said. They told her about Sarah and David, about the pregnancy, about Richard raising the children, about Sarah's death, about Richard's death, about Helen becoming the guardian, about the DNA test, about Eleanor and Frank. Miss Torres took notes. She asked many questions. Finally, she put down her pen. This will go to family court, Miss Torres said. A judge will decide what is best for the children. The judge will look at stability. The judge will look at who has been the primary caregiver. The judge will talk to the children. What are our chances? David asked. Good. Miss Torres said. Helen has been the legal guardian for 2 years. The children are doing well in school. They have friends, they have a community. But Eleanor and Frank have some strong points too. They have money. They have a big house. They are younger than Helen. I am 64, Helen said. That does not mean I cannot take care of my grandchildren. I agree, Miss Torres said, but they will argue that you are too old. They will argue that you work full-time and cannot give the children proper attention. What about me? David asked. I am their biological father. That helps, Miss Torres said, but you only met them 2 months ago. The court will see you as new to their lives. Eleanor and Frank will argue that you are a stranger. Helen put her head in her hands. So we might lose. We might, Miss Torres said, or we might win. I cannot make promises, but I will fight for you. I will show the judge that the children are happy and healthy with you. The next few weeks were terrible. The triplets could not focus at school. Maya's grades dropped. She got a C on a spelling test. She had never gotten a C before. Zoe cried during math class. The teacher had to send her to the nurse. Marcus got angry at everything. He yelled at his friends. He threw his book across the classroom. One Wednesday, a boy named Tyler said something mean to Marcus at lunch. I heard your family is messed up, Tyler said. I heard you do not even know who your real dad is. Marcus stood up fast. His chair fell backward. Shut up. It is true, Tyler said. He laughed. My mom told me. She said your whole family is a lie. Marcus punched him. His fist hit Tyler's face. Tyler fell to the ground. Blood came from his nose. He started screaming. Teachers ran over. They pulled Marcus away. The principal called Helen. Marcus was suspended for 3 days. Helen had to leave work early to pick him up. She did not yell at him. She just looked sad. I know you are angry, Helen said in the car, but you cannot hit people. He said our family is a lie, Marcus said. His hands were still shaking. He is wrong, Helen said. Our family is not a lie. We love each other. That is what matters. But Marcus did not believe her. Everything felt like a lie. His mother lied. Richard was not his real father. Now Eleanor and Frank were trying to take them away. Nothing felt true anymore. One evening, Eleanor and Frank came to the house. They did not call first. They just showed up. Helen opened the door. Her face went hard. What are you doing here? Helen asked. We want to talk to the children, Frank said. You are suing me for custody, Helen said. You do not get to just walk in. Please, Eleanor said. Her eyes were red from crying. We just want to talk to them. We are not trying to hurt anyone. Helen wanted to say no, but the children heard the voices. They came to the door. Grandma Eleanor, Zoe said. Eleanor knelt down. She opened her arms. Zoe ran to her. Eleanor hugged her tight. She started crying. Helen stepped aside. Come in. They sat in the living room, the same room where they had sat 2 weeks ago. But everything felt different now. Frank cleared his throat. We want you to understand something. We are not trying to be mean. We are trying to do what is best for you. Taking us away from Grandma Helen is not what is best for us, Maya said. Her voice was quiet but firm. You do not understand, Frank said. Helen is 64 years old. She works full-time. She cannot give you everything you need. She gives us everything, Marcus said. He was angry again. She cooks for us. She helps with homework. She takes care of us when we are sick. We can give you more, Eleanor said. She wiped her eyes. We have a big house, 4 bedrooms, a backyard. I do not work. I can be home with you all day. We have money for school supplies and clothes and field trips. We do not care about a big house, Zoe said. She was crying now. We care about being home. This is our home. Chicago is not safe, Frank said. Bloomington is quiet. It is a good place to raise children. Chicago is our home, Marcus said. His voice was getting louder. Our friends are here. Our school is here. Our mom is buried here. Richard is buried here. Eleanor reached for Marcus's hand. Richard was my son. I miss him every single day. You three are all I have left of him. I need you. Marcus pulled his hand away. You are being selfish. This is not about what you need. This is about what we need. We need to stay here. Marcus, do not talk to her that way, Helen said. Why not? Marcus stood up. She is trying to take us away. She does not care what we want. That is not true, Eleanor said. She was crying harder now. I love you. If you love us, you will drop the custody case, Maya said. Frank shook his head. We cannot do that. We believe this is the right thing. Then you do not really love us, Marcus said. You just want to control us. You want to pretend Richard is still alive by keeping us close. But he is dead. He is gone. And you cannot bring him back by taking us away from Grandma Helen. The room went silent. Eleanor sobbed into her hands. Frank's face was red. He looked angry. He looked hurt. We are done here, Frank said. He stood up. We will see you in court. He helped Eleanor stand. They walked to the door. Frank stopped. He turned to look at Helen. You are poisoning them against us, Frank said. I am doing no such thing, Helen said. They are telling you the truth. They do not want to leave. Frank and Eleanor walked out. They got in their car and drove away. Helen closed the door. She leaned against it. The triplets stood in the living room. Nobody moved. Then Zoe started crying. Not quiet tears, loud, broken sobs. She could not catch her breath. She could not stop. Maya tried to hug her. Zoe, it is okay. It is not okay, Zoe cried. Nothing is okay. Everyone is fighting. Everyone is angry. I just want everyone to stop. She ran out the front door. She ran into the dark street. Helen screamed her name. Marcus ran after her. Maya ran after her. But Zoe was fast. She disappeared into the darkness. Helen ran down the porch steps. She called Zoe's name into the darkness. Zoe! Zoe! Come back! There was no answer. Just the sound of cars on distant streets and wind in the trees. Marcus ran down the sidewalk. He looked left and right. I do not see her. Maya stood on the porch. Her whole body shook. We have to find her. It is dark. She could get hurt. Helen ran back inside. She grabbed her phone. Her hands trembled as she dialed. David answered on the second ring. Zoe ran away, Helen said. Her voice broke. We cannot find her. She ran into the street. I am coming, David said. I will be there in 15 minutes. Helen hung up. She ran back outside. Eleanor and Frank had heard the shouting. They had not driven away yet. They were standing by their car. What happened? Eleanor asked. Zoe ran away, Helen said. Help us look for her. Eleanor did not hesitate. She and Frank started walking down the street. They called Zoe's name. Helen went in the other direction. Maya and Marcus split up. They checked behind houses. They checked in bushes. They checked at the playground 2 blocks away. 10 minutes passed. No Zoe. Helen's phone rang. It was Mrs. Washington from next door. I saw a little girl running toward Cottage Grove Avenue. She was crying. Thank you, Helen said. She shouted to the others. She went toward Cottage Grove. They all ran in that direction. Cottage Grove Avenue was busy. Cars drove fast. Helen's heart pounded. She prayed Zoe had not tried to cross the street. David arrived. His car pulled up fast. He jumped out. Any sign of her? Mrs. Washington saw her running toward Cottage Grove, Helen said. David started running. He was fast. He ran down the sidewalk. He looked in every alley. He looked between parked cars. His eyes scanned everything. Then he saw her. 3 blocks from the house. She sat on the curb with her knees pulled to her chest. Her face was buried in her arms. Her whole body shook from crying. David slowed down. He did not want to scare her. He walked quietly. He sat down on the curb next to her. He did not say anything. He just sat there. Zoe looked up. Her face was red and wet. Her eyes were swollen. She looked at David. Then she put her head back down. They sat in silence for 2 minutes. Cars drove past. A dog barked somewhere. The street light above them buzzed. Finally, Zoe spoke. Her voice was small and broken. "I wish Mom never lied. I wish everything was simple. I do not know who I am supposed to be." David looked at her. His heart hurt. "You are Zoe Miller. You are Maya and Marcus's sister. You are Sarah's daughter. You are my daughter. You are Helen's granddaughter. You were loved by Richard. You are all of these things. That is who you are." "But everyone is fighting because of us," Zoe said. She started crying again. "Grandma Eleanor and Grandpa Frank are mad. Grandma Helen is sad. You are new. Everything is broken." "It is not broken," David said gently. "It is complicated. But complicated does not mean broken." "Will the judge take us away from Grandma Helen?" Zoe asked. She looked up at him with terrified eyes. David took a breath. He wanted to lie. He wanted to promise everything would be okay. But he could not. "I do not know. But I will fight to keep you with Helen. I promise you that." "What if you cannot stop it?" Zoe whispered. "Then I will keep fighting," David said. "I will never stop fighting for you." Zoe leaned against him. David put his arm around her. They sat like that for a long time. Then David's phone rang. It was Helen. "I found her," David said. "We are on Cottage Grove near 63rd Street. We are coming back now." He stood up. He held out his hand. Zoe took it. They walked back together. When they reached the house, everyone was standing on the porch. Helen ran to Zoe. She hugged her so tight Zoe could barely breathe. "Do not ever do that again," Helen said. She was crying. "Do not ever run away like that." "I am sorry," Zoe said. Eleanor walked over. Her face was full of guilt. "This is my fault. I upset you. I am so sorry, baby." Zoe looked at her. "Are you going to drop the custody case?" Eleanor's face crumpled. "I cannot. I believe you need more than Helen can give you alone." "Then you are going to keep hurting us," Zoe said. She pulled away and walked into the house. Maya and Marcus followed her. Helen looked at Eleanor and Frank. Nobody knew what to say. David stepped forward. "Can we talk, all of us?" Frank crossed his arms. "What is there to talk about?" "A solution," David said. "The children do not want to leave Chicago. They do not want to leave Helen. But I understand you want to be part of their lives. So maybe we can find a middle ground." "What kind of middle ground?" Eleanor asked. "Joint custody," David said. "The children stay with Helen. I become more involved. I help financially. I help with decisions. You visit regularly. We all work together." Frank shook his head. "That is not enough. Helen is too old. You are a stranger. They need stability." "I am not a stranger," David said. His voice was firm now. "I am their father. I have been visiting every Sunday for 2 months. I help with homework. I know their teachers. I go to their games. I am learning who they are." "You have known them for 2 months," Frank said. "Richard knew them for 8 years." "I know," David said, "and I respect that. I am not trying to replace Richard. But I am here now. I am not going anywhere." "This is not going to work," Frank said. He looked at Eleanor. "We will see them in court." Frank and Eleanor got in their car. They drove away. Helen, David, and the triplets went inside. Nobody ate dinner. Nobody spoke. They just sat in the living room feeling heavy and tired. The next day, Miss Torres called. She needed to interview the children. She needed to understand what they wanted. Helen brought them to Miss Torres's office downtown. The office was on the 10th floor of a tall building. The waiting room had leather chairs and magazines. Miss Torres came out. She wore a gray suit and glasses. She smiled at the children. "Come in. We are just going to talk." She interviewed them one at a time. Maya went first. Miss Torres's office had a big window that showed the city. Maya sat in a chair across from the desk. "How do you feel about living with your grandmother, Helen?" Miss Torres asked. "I love living with her," Maya said. "She takes care of us. She makes us dinner every night. She helps with homework. She makes sure we are safe." "How do you feel about David?" Miss Torres asked. "I like him," Maya said. She adjusted her purple glasses. "He is nice. He listens to us. He brings pizza every Sunday. But he is still new. I am still learning to trust him." "Do you want to move to Bloomington with Eleanor and Frank?" Miss Torres asked. "No," Maya said. Her voice was firm. "I want to stay in Chicago. This is my home. My friends are here. My school is here. My mom and Richard are buried here." "What if the judge says you have to move?" Miss Torres asked. Maya's eyes filled with tears. "Then I will be very sad, but I will not have a choice." Miss Torres wrote notes. Then she called in Zoe. Zoe sat in the same chair, her hands twisted in her lap. "Tell me how you feel about everything that is happening," Miss Torres said. "I feel scared," Zoe said. Her voice was quiet. "I feel like everyone is fighting over us. I do not want to make anyone sad, but I do not want to leave Grandma Helen." "Do you like David?" Miss Torres asked. "Yes," Zoe said. She looked up. "He is kind. He found me when I ran away. He sat with me. He told me I am many things, and all of them are part of who I am. That made me feel better." "What about Eleanor and Frank?" Miss Torres asked. "I love them," Zoe said. Tears ran down her face. "They are Grandpa Richard's parents. They bring us cookies. They hug us. But I do not want to live with them. I want to visit them. But I want to live here." Miss Torres handed Zoe a tissue. She called in Marcus last. Marcus sat down with his arms crossed. His face was hard. "How are you doing, Marcus?" Miss Torres asked. "Bad," Marcus said. "Everything is bad." "Tell me why," Miss Torres said. "Because everyone is lying," Marcus said. "Mom lied about David. Richard was not our real dad, but nobody told us. Now Grandpa Frank and Grandma Eleanor are trying to take us away. Everyone says they love us, but they keep hurting us." "Do you want to stay with Helen?" Miss Torres asked. "Yes," Marcus said. "She is the only one who has been honest with us. She told us the truth about David, even though it was hard. She works hard to take care of us. She does not lie." "What about David?" Miss Torres asked. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "I do not know. He seems okay. But Richard was my dad. David is just some guy who showed up because of a DNA test." "Do you think David cares about you?" Mrs. Torres asked. Marcus shrugged. "Maybe. I do not know yet." Miss Torres finished her notes. She walked the children back to the waiting room. Helen stood up. "The hearing is in 2 weeks," Miss Torres said. "I will present your case to the judge. The judge will make the final decision." "What happens if we lose?" Helen asked. "Then the children will move to Bloomington," Miss Torres said. "But we are not going to lose. We have a strong case." But her eyes said she was not completely sure. Nobody was sure. The next 2 weeks would decide everything. The 2 weeks felt endless. Every day moved slowly. Every night felt long. The triplets could not stop thinking about the hearing. What would the judge say? Where would they live? Would they ever see Helen again if they lost? Helen could not sleep. She lay in bed at night and prayed. She asked God to let the children stay. She asked God to give the judge wisdom. She had raised these children for 2 years. She loved them more than anything. The thought of losing them made her chest hurt. David worked during the day but could not focus. He made mistakes on building plans. He forgot meetings. His assistant had to remind him of everything. At night, he sat in his apartment alone and thought about the children. He had only known them for 2 months. What if the judge decided that was not enough? What if he lost them before he really got to know them? Eleanor called her lawyer every single day. "Is there any news?" she would ask. The lawyer always said no. The hearing was scheduled for November 15th. Nothing would happen before then. Eleanor cried often. Frank tried to comfort her, but he was scared too. The triplets tried to go to school, but learning felt impossible. Maya stared at her math problems, but could not solve them. The numbers blurred together. Zoe sat in art class and drew the same picture over and over. A small house with 3 stick figures inside. Marcus got in trouble for not paying attention. His teacher asked him a question 3 times before he heard her. At lunch one day, Maya's friend Jasmine asked what was wrong. "You have been sad for weeks." Maya did not know what to say. Finally, she told the truth. "My grandparents are trying to take me away from my grandmother. A judge is going to decide if I have to move." Jasmine's eyes went wide. "That is terrible. Where would you move?" "Indiana," Maya said, "to a town called Bloomington." "But that is so far away," Jasmine said. "You would have to change schools. You would have to leave all your friends." "I know," Maya said. Tears filled her eyes. She did not want to cry at school, but she could not stop. Finally, November 15th arrived. Helen woke the children up early. "We have to be at the courthouse at 9 in the morning. Get dressed. Wear something nice." The triplets put on their best clothes. Maya wore a purple dress and her glasses. Zoe wore a blue dress. Marcus wore black pants and a white shirt. They hated dressing up. But today was important. Helen wore her best dress. It was dark green, and she had owned it for 15 years. She only wore it to church and special occasions. David picked them up in his car. He wore a gray suit and a blue tie. Nobody talked during the drive downtown. The courthouse was huge. It was made of white stone with tall columns in front. They climbed the steps and went inside. The lobby was enormous. Their footsteps echoed on the marble floor. Security guards checked their bags. Then they took the elevator to the 4th floor. Miss Torres waited for them in the hallway outside the courtroom. She wore a black suit. She looked calm and professional. She knelt down to talk to the children. "The judge is going to ask questions," Miss Torres said. "Be honest. Be calm. Tell the judge what you want. Can you do that?" The 3 children nodded. Maya's hands shook. Zoe held Maya's hand tight. Marcus stood with his shoulders back, trying to look brave. Eleanor and Frank arrived with their lawyer. His name was Simon Grant. He was a tall man in his 50s with gray hair and an expensive suit. He carried a leather briefcase. Eleanor's eyes were red. She had been crying in the car. Frank looked angry, and Dada determined. "Hello, children," Eleanor said softly. "Hi," Zoe said. Maya and Marcus said nothing. At 9 in the morning, the bailiff opened the courtroom doors. "The court is now in session. All rise for Judge Caroline Martinez." Everyone walked inside. The courtroom had wooden benches and tall ceilings. The judge's bench sat at the front. An American flag stood in the corner. They all sat down. Helen, David, and the triplets sat on one side with Miss Torres. Eleanor, Frank, and Mr. Grant sat on the other side. Judge Martinez entered through a side door. She wore a black robe. She was in her 50s with gray hair pulled back in a bun. Her face was serious. She sat down and looked at everyone. "Please be seated," she said. Her voice was firm and clear. "We are here today to determine custody of Maya Miller, Zoe Miller, and Marcus Miller. This is a difficult case. I have reviewed all the documents. Now I want to hear from both sides. She looked at Mr. Grant. You may present your case first. Mr. Grant stood up. He walked to the front of the courtroom. He spoke clearly and confidently. Your Honor, my clients Eleanor and Frank Thompson are seeking custody of their grandchildren. Richard Thompson, their son, raised these children as his own for 8 years. He loved them. He provided for them. When Richard died, these children lost their father. Eleanor and Frank are the connection to Richard's memory. He continued, Helen Carter is 64 years old. She works full-time at a grocery store. She cannot provide the financial stability these children need. Eleanor and Frank have a 4-bedroom home in Bloomington, Indiana. They have retirement savings. Eleanor does not work, so she can be home with the children all day. They can provide a stable, secure environment. Mr. Grant looked at David. David Miller only recently entered these children's lives. He met them 2 months ago. While he may be their biological father, he is essentially a stranger. The children need consistency. They need people who know them. Eleanor and Frank have been in their lives since birth. Judge Martinez wrote notes. Then she looked at Miss Torres. You may present your case. Miss Torres stood. She walked to the front with papers in her hand. Your Honor, Helen Carter has been the legal guardian of these children for 2 years. She took them in when their father Richard died. She feeds them. She clothes them. She makes sure they go to school every day. She attends parent-teacher conferences. She takes them to doctor appointments. She loves them deeply. Miss Torres gestured to the triplets. These children have already experienced tremendous loss. They lost their mother Sarah 2 years ago in a car accident. They lost Richard 1 year ago to cancer. Moving them to Indiana would be another devastating loss. They would lose their home, their school, their friends, their community. Their mother and Richard are buried in Chicago. This is where their roots are. She looked at David. David Miller is their biological father. Yes, he only met them recently. But that is not his fault. He did not know they existed. Sarah kept that secret. Since learning about them, David has been present every single week. He helps with homework. He attends school events. He is building a relationship with them. He is not a stranger. He is their father. Judge Martinez wrote more notes. Then she looked up. I want to ask some questions. She looked at Helen. Mrs. Carter, how do you manage working full-time and raising 3 8-year-old children? Helen stood up. Her voice shook. It is hard, Your Honor. I am not going to lie. I work from 8 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. The children are in school during that time. When they get home, I am there. I make them dinner. I help with homework. I make sure they take baths and go to bed on time. On weekends, we go to church and spend time together. I am tired. My knees hurt, but I do it because I love them. Do you have help? Judge Martinez asked. David helps now, Helen said. He brings groceries. He helps pay for school supplies. He spends time with the children every Sunday. Judge Martinez looked at David. Mr. Miller, why do you want to be part of these children's lives? David stood up. Because they are my children, Your Honor. I did not know they existed, but from the moment I learned about them, I wanted to be their father. I have thought about having a family for years. Now, I have one. I do not want to waste any more time. I want to know them. I want to be there for them. But you only met them 2 months ago, Judge Martinez said. Why should I trust that you will stay involved? Because I loved their mother, David said. Sarah was the love of my life. When she disappeared, I looked for her for months. I never forgot her. These children are part of her. They are part of me. I will never leave them. I promise you that. Judge Martinez looked at Eleanor. Mrs. Thompson, why are you seeking custody? Eleanor stood. She was crying. Because my son Richard loved these children. He raised them as his own. When he died, I lost him. These children are all I have left of him. I see Richard in their faces. I hear him in their voices. I need them. And I believe they need me. What can you provide that Mrs. Carter cannot? Judge Martinez asked. Stability, Eleanor said. A big house, financial security, time. I do not work. I can be with them all day. I can help with homework. I can drive them to activities. I can give them everything they need. Judge Martinez was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I want to speak to the children privately, one at a time, in my chambers. The bailiff called Marcus first. He stood up. His legs felt shaky. He walked through a door behind the judge's bench. Judge Martinez's office was smaller than the courtroom. It had a desk and 2 chairs. Books lined the walls. Sit down, Marcus, Judge Martinez said. Her voice was softer now. I just want to talk to you. There are no wrong answers. Marcus sat. He looked at his hands. Where do you want to live? Judge Martinez asked. With Grandma Helen, Marcus said. In Chicago. Why? Judge Martinez asked. Because she is the only one who stayed, Marcus said. His voice was strong. Mom died. Richard died. But Grandma Helen stayed. She takes care of us every day. She does not lie. She loves us. What about David? Judge Martinez asked. Marcus was quiet. He is okay. He brings pizza. He helps with homework. But Richard was my dad. David is just David. Do you want to move to Bloomington? Judge Martinez asked. No, Marcus said. He looked up at her. I love Grandma Eleanor and Grandpa Frank. But this is my home. My friends are here. My basketball team is here. Mom and Richard are here. Judge Martinez nodded. Thank you, Marcus. You can go back now. Marcus left. The bailiff called Maya next, then Zoe. Each child said the same thing. They wanted to stay with Helen. They wanted to stay in Chicago. When all 3 interviews were done, Judge Martinez returned to the courtroom. Everyone stood. She sat down and looked at them. This is one of the most difficult cases I have seen, she said. Every person in this room loves these children. I can see that. But love is not enough. Children need stability. They need consistency. I will take 2 weeks to review everything and make my decision. Court is adjourned. She stood and left through the side door. Everyone sat in shocked silence. 2 more weeks of waiting. 2 more weeks of not knowing. Helen started crying. David put his hand on her shoulder. The triplets sat frozen. They had told the judge what they wanted. But would it be enough? They left the courthouse in silence. David drove Helen and the triplets home. Nobody spoke. Maya stared out the window. Zoe held Helen's hand in the back seat. Marcus sat with his arms crossed and his jaw tight. When they got home, Helen went straight to her bedroom. She closed the door. The children heard her crying. They sat on the couch and looked at each other. What if we have to move? Zoe whispered. We will not move, Marcus said. But his voice did not sound sure. Maya bit her bottom lip. She wanted to believe Marcus, but she was scared. David stayed for dinner. Helen came out of her bedroom with red eyes. She made spaghetti, but nobody was hungry. They pushed food around their plates. After dinner, David hugged each child goodbye. I will call you tomorrow, he said. That night, Helen knelt by her bed and prayed. She prayed longer than she had ever prayed before. She asked God to let the children stay. She asked God to give Judge Martinez wisdom. She prayed until her knees hurt. Then she climbed into bed and stared at the ceiling until morning came. The next 2 weeks were the hardest of their lives. Every day felt heavy. Every moment felt slow. Helen went to work, but made mistakes at the grocery store. She gave a customer the wrong change. She dropped a jar of pickles, and it shattered on the floor. Her manager asked if she was okay. She said yes, but she was lying. David tried to work, but could not focus. He sat in meetings and did not hear what people said. He looked at building plans and could not make decisions. His business partner asked what was wrong. David told him about the custody case. His partner said, "Take time off. You need to rest." But David could not rest. Resting meant thinking. Thinking meant worrying. Eleanor called Mr. Grant every single day. "Has the judge decided?" she would ask. Mr. Grant always said the same thing. "Not yet. We have to wait." Eleanor cried every night. Frank held her and told her everything would be okay. But he did not know if that was true. The triplets tried to go to school, but everything felt wrong. Maya got a D on a reading test. She had never gotten a D in her life. She cried in the bathroom during lunch. Zoe fell asleep in class. Her teacher woke her up and sent her to the nurse. Marcus stopped talking to his friends. He sat alone at lunch and stared at his sandwich without eating. 1 week passed. Then 10 days. Then 12 days. Each day felt like a month. On the 13th day, Miss Torres called Helen. Helen was at work. She stepped outside to take the call. Her hands shook as she held the phone. "The judge has made her decision," Miss Torres said. "We need to be in court tomorrow at 10 in the morning." Helen's legs felt weak. She sat down on the curb. "Did she tell you the decision?" "No," Miss Torres said. "She will announce it in court. Bring the children. The judge wants them there." Helen hung up. She sat on the curb and cried. A coworker came outside and asked if she needed help. Helen shook her head. She stood up and went back inside. She finished her shift. Then she went home. The children were doing homework at the kitchen table. Helen stood in the doorway. They looked up at her face and knew something had changed. "The judge made her decision," Helen said. "We have to go to court tomorrow morning." Maya's face went pale. Zoe started crying. Marcus stood up and walked to his bedroom without saying anything. That night, nobody slept. Helen lay in bed and prayed some more. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Maya wrote in her journal, "Asterisk, tomorrow we find out where we will live. I am more scared than I have ever been. Please God, let us stay home." Zoe cried into her pillow. She cried so hard she made herself sick. Helen heard her and came into the room. She sat on Zoe's bed and rubbed her back until Zoe finally fell asleep. Marcus punched his pillow over and over. His knuckles hurt. He did not care. He wanted to hit something. He wanted to break something. But there was nothing to break except his own heart. Morning came too fast. Helen woke the children at 7. They got dressed in the same nice clothes they wore 2 weeks ago. They ate breakfast, but tasted nothing. David picked them up at 8:30. The drive downtown felt both too long and too short. They met Miss Torres in the courthouse lobby. Eleanor and Frank were already there with Mr. Grant. Eleanor's eyes were red and swollen. Frank looked tired. When Eleanor saw the children, she started crying again. "Whatever happens," Eleanor said, "I love you." Zoe walked over and hugged her. Eleanor held her tight. At 10 in the morning, the bailiff opened the doors. "All rise for Judge Caroline Martinez." They filed into the same courtroom. They sat in the same seats. Judge Martinez entered and sat down. She had a folder in front of her. She opened it and looked at the papers inside. "Please be seated," she said. Everyone sat. The room was completely silent. Helen held Maya's hand. Zoe held Maya's other hand. Marcus sat with his fists clenched. Judge Martinez looked up. Her face was serious. "I have spent 2 weeks reviewing this case. I have read all the documents. I have considered the testimony. I have thought about what is best for these 3 children." She paused. Helen stopped breathing. "This is one of the hardest cases I have seen in 20 years. On the bench, Judge Martinez continued. Every person in this room loves Maya, Zoe, and Marcus. That is rare. Most custody cases involve people who are angry or vengeful. But all of you are here because you care about these children. That tells me something important. She looked at the triplets. These children have experienced tremendous loss. They lost their mother, Sarah, 2 years ago. They lost Richard Thompson 1 year ago. They have grieved deeply. They are still grieving. Judge Martinez looked at her papers. Richard Thompson was not their biological father, but he raised them with love. He was their father in every way that mattered. I honor his memory. Eleanor sobbed quietly. Frank put his arm around her. Judge Martinez continued, David Miller is the biological father. He did not know these children existed. That was not his fault. Sarah Carter made that choice. Since learning about them, Mr. Miller has been consistent. He has shown up every week. He has built relationships with them. I believe he will continue to be present. She looked at Helen. Helen Carter has been the primary guardian for 2 years. She took these children in when Richard died. She has worked hard to provide for them. She loves them deeply. The children are thriving under her care. They are doing well in school. They have friends. They have a community. Judge Martinez closed the folder. Eleanor and Frank Thompson have a beautiful home in Bloomington. They have financial resources. They love these children because they loved Richard. I understand their desire to keep these children close, but... She paused. Everyone leaned forward. These children have lost enough, Judge Martinez said. Her voice was firm. They need stability. They need to stay in their home. They need to stay in their school. They need to stay with the people they know. Helen's hands covered her mouth. Therefore, Judge Martinez said, I am ruling that Helen Carter will remain the primary guardian. The children will continue living with her in Chicago. Helen started crying. She cried so hard her whole body shook. David put his hand on her shoulder. Maya, Zoe, and Marcus held each other. However, Judge Martinez continued, David Miller will have joint custody. He will have the right to make decisions about education and health care. He can see the children anytime Mrs. Carter approves. I encourage them to work together. She looked at Eleanor and Frank. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson will have visitation rights. You may visit the children once a month. You may call them anytime. You may send gifts and letters. You are their family. That will not change. Eleanor cried into her hands. Frank's face was red. He looked devastated, but he nodded slowly. Judge Martinez stood. These children have lost enough. They need stability and love, not more conflict. This arrangement ensures they have both. Court is adjourned. She left through the side door. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Helen stood and hugged the triplets. All 4 of them cried together. David stood and wiped his eyes. He had not cried in years. But today he could not stop. Miss Torres smiled. It was the first time the children had seen her smile. You get to stay home, she said. Eleanor and Frank sat on their bench. Mr. Grant talked to them quietly. Eleanor could not stop crying. Frank held her hand. Finally, they stood and walked over to Helen. Congratulations, Frank said. His voice was stiff. I am sorry, Helen said. I know this hurts. It does, Eleanor said. She looked at the children. But the judge is right. You have lost enough. You need to be home. She knelt down and hugged each child. I will visit next month. I will call you every week. I love you so much. We love you too, Zoe said. Frank shook David's hand. Richard loved these kids. I see you love them too. That is what matters. David nodded. Thank you. Eleanor, Frank, and Mr. Grant left. Helen, David, Miss Torres, and the triplets stood in the empty courtroom. You can go home now, Miss Torres said. You are free. They walked out of the courthouse into the November sunshine. The air was cold, but the sky was blue. They climbed into David's car. As he drove them home, Marcus turned to David. "Will you really stay?" Marcus asked quietly. David looked at him in the rearview mirror. "I promise, I will never leave." For the first time in weeks, Marcus smiled. That night, they ordered Chinese food for dinner. Helen said it was a celebration. They ate fried rice and orange chicken at the kitchen table. For the first time in months, everyone smiled. The heavy feeling was gone. They were home. They would stay home. David stayed until 8 at night. Before he left, he sat down with Helen at the kitchen table. The children were in the living room watching television. "I want to help more," David said. "I want to be a real father to them." "What do you mean?" Helen asked. "I want to have them stay with me sometimes," David said. "Not take them away from you. Just give you a break. Let me spend real time with them." Helen thought about this. "Where would they stay? Your apartment only has 1 bedroom." "I will get to a bigger place," David said. 3 bedrooms, 1 for each of them. Somewhere close to here, so they are not far from you." Helen looked at him. "You would do that?" "Yes," David said. "They are my children. I want to give them a home with me, too." Helen nodded slowly. "Okay, but we go slowly. We do not rush anything." "Agreed," David said. 2 weeks later, David found an apartment in Hyde Park. It was only 15 minutes from Helen's house. The apartment had 3 bedrooms, a kitchen, and a living room with big windows. It was on the 2nd floor of a brick building. The rent was expensive, but David could afford it. He signed the lease and got the keys. Then he called Helen. "I found a place. Can I bring the children to see it?" Helen said yes. On Saturday morning, David picked up the triplets. They drove to Hyde Park. The children had never been to this neighborhood before. The streets were cleaner than their neighborhood. The houses were bigger. David parked in front of the brick building. They climbed the stairs to the 2nd floor. David unlocked the door. The apartment was empty. No furniture, no decorations, just white walls and clean floors. "This is it," David said. "This is where you will stay with me on weekends." The children walked through the apartment. There was a big living room, a small kitchen, a bathroom, and 3 empty bedrooms. David walked to the first bedroom. "Maya, this one can be yours. What color do you want the walls?" Maya looked around. The room had 1 window that showed the street. "Purple," she said. "I want purple walls." "Purple it is," David said. He took them to the 2nd bedroom. "Zoe, what color do you want?" "Blue," Zoe said quietly. "Light blue." "Perfect," David said. He took them to the 3rd bedroom. "Marcus?" "Green," Marcus said. "Dark green." "Done," David said. "I will paint the rooms this week. Then we will buy beds and dressers." That week, David took time off work. He bought paint and brushes. He painted Maya's room purple. He painted Zoe's room light blue. He painted Marcus's room dark green. His back hurt from all the work. His arms hurt, but he did not complain. This was for his children. The next weekend, he took the triplets furniture shopping. They went to a big store on the south side of Chicago. The store sold beds and couches and tables. Maya picked a white bed with a bookshelf attached. Zoe picked a bed with a soft blue comforter. Marcus picked a bed that looked like a race car. David said yes to everything. The furniture was delivered 3 days later. David spent all day setting up the beds and dressers. By evening, the apartment looked like a real home. Each child had their own space, their own bed, their own place to put clothes and toys. On Friday after school, David picked up the triplets. "You are staying with me this weekend," he said. Helen had packed bags for each of them, pajamas, clean clothes, toothbrushes. The children were nervous. They had never slept anywhere except Helen's house since Richard died. They arrived at the apartment. The children went to their rooms. Maya touched her purple walls. Zoe lay down on her new bed. Marcus opened his dresser drawers. Everything was new. Everything was theirs. That night, David made dinner, spaghetti and meatballs. They ate together at the small kitchen table. After dinner, David helped with homework. He sat next to Marcus and explained fractions. He looked at Maya's spelling words and quizzed her. He listened to Zoe read a chapter from her library book. At 8:30, David said it was bedtime. The children got into their pajamas. They brushed their teeth. Zoe stood in the hallway looking scared. "What is wrong?" David asked. "I do not like sleeping in new places," Zoe said. "I get scared." "What did Richard do when you were scared?" David asked. "He read me a story," Zoe said. "Then I will read you a story," David said. He went to Zoe's room. She climbed into bed. David sat on the edge of the bed and opened the book she was reading. He read 3 chapters. His voice was calm and steady. By the end of the 3rd chapter, Zoe's eyes were closing. "Good night," David said. He kissed her forehead. "Good night," Zoe whispered. David went to Maya's room. She was already in bed writing in her journal. "Do you need anything?" he asked. "No," Maya said. "Thank you for painting my room purple." "You are welcome," David said. "Sleep well." He went to Marcus's room. Marcus was lying in bed staring at the ceiling. David sat down in the chair by the window. "Are you okay?" David asked. "Yeah," Marcus said, but his voice sounded sad. "You can talk to me if something is bothering you," David said. Marcus was quiet for a long time. Then he spoke. "I miss Richard." "I know," David said. "It is okay to miss him. He was your dad." "But you are my dad too," Marcus said. "The DNA says so. So why do I still feel like Richard was my real dad?" "Because he was," David said. "He raised you. He loved you. That makes him your real dad. I am your biological father. But Richard was your dad too. You can love both of us." Marcus looked at David. "Really?" "Really," David said. "I am not trying to replace him. I am just trying to be here now." Marcus nodded. He looked like he wanted to say something else, but he did not. David stood up. "Good night, Marcus," David said. "Good night," Marcus said. David went to his own room. He lay in bed and thought about the children sleeping in the other rooms. His children. He still could not believe it. After all these years, he had a family. The weekend passed quickly. On Saturday, David took them to the park. They played basketball. Marcus was good. He made 6 baskets. David cheered every time. On Sunday, they went to the grocery store together. David let each child pick one special food. Maya picked strawberries. Zoe picked chocolate chip cookies. Marcus picked orange juice. Sunday evening, David drove them back to Helen's house. Helen was cooking dinner. The smell of chicken filled the house. "How was it?" Helen asked. "Good," Maya said. "Really good," Zoe said. "It was okay," Marcus said. But he was smiling a little. This became the routine. Every Friday after school, David picked them up. They spent the weekend at his apartment. Sunday evening, he brought them back to Helen's. During the week, David came to Helen's house for dinner twice. He helped with homework. He listened to them talk about school. David also started going to their school events. He went to parent-teacher conferences with Helen. Maya's teacher said she was doing better. Her grades were improving. Zoe's teacher said she was talking more in class. Marcus's teacher said he was calmer. David went to Marcus's basketball games. He sat in the bleachers and cheered. The other parents asked who he was. "I am Marcus's father," David said. It felt good to say it out loud. He went to Maya's art show at school. Her drawings hung on the wall in the hallway. One drawing showed a family, a grandmother, a father, 3 children. David looked at it for a long time. He volunteered for Zoe's class field trip to the zoo. He walked with the children and helped carry lunches. Zoe held his hand the whole time. She showed him her favorite animals: the elephants, the giraffes, the penguins. Helen and David talked on the phone every day. They discussed the children, what they ate, how they slept, what they needed. They became a team. Sometimes David came over and cooked dinner with Helen. He learned how to make the children's favorite foods: Helen's pot roast, her macaroni and cheese, her chocolate cake. They sat at the kitchen table after the children went to bed. They talked about Sarah. Helen told David stories he had never heard, about Sarah as a little girl, about her first day of school, about her favorite songs. David told Helen about the time he and Sarah went to Navy Pier, about how they rode the Ferris wheel and Sarah was scared of heights, but she laughed anyway, about how they ate hot dogs and walked by the water until midnight. "She loved you," Helen said. "She really did." "I know," David said. "I loved her too. I wish she had trusted me." "She was scared," Helen said, "but she is not scared anymore. Wherever she is, I think she is at peace now." David hoped that was true. One Saturday afternoon, Frank called Helen. His voice was different, quieter. "Eleanor and I want to visit. Is that okay?" "Yes," Helen said. "You are always welcome." The next Sunday, Eleanor and Frank drove up from Bloomington. They brought cookies and coloring books. The visit was awkward at first. Nobody knew what to say. Then Zoe hugged Eleanor. "I missed you," Zoe said. Eleanor started crying. "I missed you too, baby." They sat in the living room. David was there. Frank looked at him. Then Frank stood up and walked over. He held out his hand. "I owe you an apology," Frank said. "I was wrong. Richard loved these kids. I see you love them too. That is what matters." David shook his hand. "Thank you. That means a lot." The visit was better after that. They ate lunch together. They talked about school and basketball and art. When Eleanor and Frank left, they hugged everyone goodbye. Even David. Life was not perfect. The children still had hard days. Maya still worried too much. Zoe still cried sometimes. Marcus still got angry. But they were healing. Slowly. Together. And for the first time in a long time, they felt like a family again. 6 months passed. Winter came and went. Spring arrived. The trees on Helen Street grew green leaves. Flowers bloomed in the small yard. Life found a rhythm that felt almost normal. The triplets were doing better. Helen noticed it first. Maya smiled more often. She still made lists and organized her school supplies. But she did not panic when things changed. Zoe cried less. She talked about her feelings instead of keeping them inside. Marcus still got angry sometimes, but he was learning to calm down before he said something mean or broke something. Helen had found a therapist for the children. Her name was Dr. Roberts. She worked in an office downtown. The children went to see her every Tuesday after school. David drove them. Dr. Roberts was a kind woman in her 40s. She had brown skin and warm eyes. She wore colorful scarves and always had candy in a bowl on her desk. The children liked her. She met with them separately. Maya went first one Tuesday in April. She sat in the big chair across from Dr. Roberts. "How are you feeling this week?" Dr. Roberts asked. "Better," Maya said. "I am not as scared anymore." "What were you scared of?" Dr. Roberts asked. "Losing Grandma Helen," Maya said. "Losing our home, having to move. But the judge said we can stay, so I feel safer now." "That is good," Dr. Roberts said. "What about David? How do you feel about him?" Maya thought about it. "I like him. He is nice to us. He keeps his promises. He comes every weekend. He does not leave. Do you trust him? Doctor, Roberts asked. I think so, Maya said. I am still learning to. But yes, I think I trust him. Zoe went next, and she sat in the same chair. She twisted her hands in her lap. I am worried about something, Zoe said. What are you worried about? Dr. Roberts asked. I love Grandma Helen, and I love David, and I love Grandma Eleanor and Grandpa Frank, and I loved Richard, and I love my mom, even though she lied. Is it okay to love all of them? Dr. Roberts smiled. Yes, it is absolutely okay. Family is not just about blood. Family is about who shows up, who stays, who loves you even when things are hard. You can love all of them. There is no limit to love. Zoe's eyes filled with tears. Really? Really, Dr. Roberts said. Marcus was last. He sat with his arms crossed. He did not want to be there, but Helen said he had to go. You seem angry today, Dr. Roberts said. I am always angry, Marcus said. Why? Dr. Roberts asked. Because everything is confusing, Marcus said. I loved Richard. He was my dad. But he was not my real dad. David is my real dad. But I did not know him when I was little. So who is supposed to be my dad? Both of them, Dr. Roberts said. Richard was your dad because he raised you. David is your dad because he is here now. You do not have to choose. Marcus looked at her. I do not have to choose? No, Dr. Roberts said. You can honor Richard's memory and build a relationship with David. Both things can be true. Marcus was quiet. Then he said, Richard taught me how to play basketball. That is a beautiful memory, Doctor. Roberts said. You can keep that. Nobody can take that away. The sessions helped. Slowly, the children felt lighter. The heavy sadness they carried began to lift. In late April, Helen looked at the calendar. May 3rd was coming, the 2-year anniversary of Richard's death. She thought about it for a long time. Then she called David. I think we should all visit Richard's grave together, Helen said. You, me, the children, and Eleanor and Frank. Are you sure? David asked. That might be hard. I am sure, Helen said. The children need to see that we can all honor Richard together. David agreed. Helen called Eleanor and Frank. They said they would come. On the morning of May 3rd, everyone met at the cemetery. It was in a quiet part of Chicago. Trees surrounded the graves. Birds sang in the branches. The weather was cool and cloudy. David drove Helen and the triplets. Eleanor and Frank drove from Bloomington. They all arrived at 10 in the morning. They walked together down the path to Richard's grave. The headstone was simple. Gray stone. It said, Asterisk Richard Thompson. Beloved father. Gone, but not forgotten. The triplets stood in front of the grave. Maya placed white roses at the base of the stone. Zoe placed yellow daisies. Marcus placed a small baseball. Richard had loved baseball. He had taken Marcus to a White Sox game once. Marcus still remembered it. Helen placed a photo next to the flowers. It showed Richard with the triplets when they were 3 years old. Richard was smiling. The children were laughing. It was from a birthday party. Eleanor knelt down. She touched the headstone. Tears ran down her face. Frank stood behind her with his hand on her shoulder. He was crying too. Then David stepped forward. He stood in front of the grave. Everyone looked at him. He cleared his throat. His voice shook when he spoke. Richard, David said, I never met you, but I know you loved these children. You raised them when I could not. You read them bedtime stories. You taught them to ride bikes. You were there when they were sick. You were their father. He paused. Tears ran down his face. Thank you for loving them. Thank you for being the dad I could not be. I will take care of them now. I promise. I will love them the way you did. I will show up. I will stay. They will never forget you. I will make sure of it." The words hung in the air. Everyone was crying now, even Frank. Marcus looked at the grave. Then he looked at David. Something inside him broke open, something that had been closed and locked. Marcus walked over to David. He wrapped his arms around him. He hugged him tight. He cried into David's chest. It was the first time Marcus had really hugged David, the first time he had let himself need him. "Thank you for staying," Marcus whispered. David held him. "I will never leave. I promise." They stood like that for a long time. The rest of the family watched. Helen smiled through her tears. Eleanor smiled too. Even in the sadness, there was peace. 2 weeks later, the triplets turned 9 years old. Their birthday was May 17th. Helen wanted to throw a big party. She invited both families. Helen spent all morning baking a chocolate cake. It was 3 layers tall. She made vanilla frosting and wrote asterisk, "Happy Birthday Maya, Zoe, and Marcus asterisk" on top in purple letters. David brought ice cream, chocolate, and vanilla. Eleanor brought presents wrapped in shiny paper. Frank brought balloons and hung them in the living room. The house was crowded. Helen, David, Eleanor, Frank, the triplets, and some kids from school. Maya invited her friend Jasmine. Zoe invited her friend Emily. Marcus invited his friend Carlos. They played games in the backyard. They ate hot dogs and potato chips. They drank lemonade. When it was time for cake, everyone gathered in the living room. Helen brought out the cake with 9 candles on top, 3 for each child. Everyone sang "Happy Birthday." The triplets stood together. Maya closed her eyes. Zoe closed her eyes. Marcus closed his eyes. They made the same wish. They wished their mom and Richard could see them now. They wished Sarah and Richard knew they were okay. They blew out the candles together. Everyone cheered. After cake, Mrs. Washington from next door offered to take a photo. "Everyone get together," she said. Helen, David, Eleanor, Frank, Maya, Zoe, and Marcus went out to the backyard. They stood in a line. Helen stood in the middle with the triplets in front of her. David stood on one side. Eleanor and Frank stood on the other. "Smile," Mrs. Washington said. They smiled. It was not a fake smile, it was real. They were happy. They were together. They were family. Mrs. Washington took the photo. Then she took another one. Then 3 more. When she was done, she showed them the pictures on her camera screen. They all leaned in to look. In the photo, they looked like a family. Not a perfect family. Not a simple family. But a real family. A family that had been broken, but was putting itself back together. A family that had survived loss and lies and court battles. A family that had chosen to love each other, even when it was hard. That night, after everyone went home, the triplets got ready for bed. They brushed their teeth. They put on their pajamas. Helen came into their room to say goodnight. "Did you have a good birthday?" Helen asked. "Yes," Maya said. "The best," Zoe said. "It was good," Marcus said. Then he smiled. "Really good." Helen kissed each of them on the forehead. "I love you." "We love you too," they said together. Helen turned off the light. She left the door open a crack. She walked to the living room and sat in her chair. She looked at the photo Mrs. Washington had printed and given her. Everyone was smiling. Everyone was together. David called. "Thank you for today," he said. "Thank you for letting me be part of their lives." "They are your children," Helen said. "You belong here." After she hung up, Helen closed her eyes and said a prayer. She thanked God for keeping them together. She thanked God for David. She thanked God for Eleanor and Frank finding peace. She thanked God for the children's laughter. In their bedroom, Maya wrote in her journal one last time before sleep. Asterisk. Today, I turned 9. Both families were here. We ate cake. We took pictures. Everyone was happy. I think Mom would be proud of us. I think Richard would be proud too. We are not perfect, but we are okay. And that is enough. She closed the journal and turned off her light. In the darkness, she heard Zoe breathing softly. She heard Marcus rolling over in his bed. She felt safe. She felt home. Family was complicated. Family was messy. Family was hard. But family was also love. And love always found a way to put the broken pieces back together. If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen